I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about a father who's going viral on TikTok, and I know other people on Twitter with some big accounts I've been told they've been talking about it. I guess I've maybe seen his video a bit on TikTok and stuff on X, but I've mostly seen it on TikTok. On TikTok, it's got 1 billion followers, but a father found out that his student was informed after the fact that his child was taken to a protest in Washington. And he's in middle school. And so if you are a parent and one, you don't like the political ideology of the folks who are going out and protesting, I can understand you being angry. But two, also people have been killed going to observe this kind of stuff. And you want to make sure that your child is safe. So even if you agreed with the politics or sympathize with anti-ICE folks, there's still reason to be upset. But the main reason to be upset is the school having the audacity to believe that they have the right to pull your child from the school, to take them off the property, and you not be informed about it. So I don't have kids myself, but when I think about having kids or being a parent, and the idea that a teacher, the school, or whatever would think that this would be okay, really infuriates me. I did see this a couple days ago, so I'm like not hot off the anger or whatever, but I hate stories like this. I hate stories like this. I hate stories about we think the parents are ignorant, so we're going to teach them about transing the kids and all that. I hate stories like that. The audacity of some of these schools and parents or whatever, to try to insert themselves in areas where they don't belong when it comes to the parent and child dynamic, to think that that you're not the person responsible for that child's life, and that they're the ones who are going to supersede your authority and try to get around it. That just irks me so bad. I can only imagine how infuriated this father was actually, but he certainly did showcase his rage. Also, another interesting that's going on, Jeff Bezos, Washington, decided to get rid of a lot of people at Washington Post, over 300 people. And so, newspapers are money losers in a lot of regard, and Washington Post obviously has a lot of folks on. There's people on payroll who have, apparently by their descriptions, I assume to be not needed jobs, but they are getting rid of reporters that report on a lot of different things, like Ukraine war and other stuff like that. So maybe they're not losing. Maybe they are losing some good reporters. I don't know, but some of their reporting, like on the Israel Gaza stuff, was just bad, so unfair, and so Jeff Bezos wants the paper to be better, but he doesn't want to just suck money and keep losing. But what's interesting is that people are like, well, he's a billionaire. He can afford to just keep paying all these people and have it just keep sucking money. And it's such an attitude of entitlement that's really bizarre. So we'll be talking about those things and some other stuff as well. Before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check a different content website, articles, videos, etc. Like what I do, please consider leaving a donation, because it does cost a stream, run my side, all that good stuff. If you guys can support, I very much appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available on my website, different t-shirts and mugs and so on. And you guys can also check out some of my books that I have, which some of them are behind me that you can see being propped up. So like my children's book and all kinds of different stuff that you guys can see. But we're going to just pretty much pop into it. So the first thing we're going to tackle is this video. Now he's posted a couple updates that I have watched and taken note of, and they did send an email after the fact about his child going to protest. I'm going to play his whole video. There's going to be some language. Actually, I gotta pop this up on TikTok and then share my screen. So give me 1 second. I'm doing it wrong. But so there's gonna be some language. He is planning to sue the school, which we'll see how that goes. But he said he's gonna go to the school board meeting, which he should. I don't know how his lawsuit's gonna go, but he's looking into that.
So my son just called and said that his school just brought him to a protest. So he's currently at a fucking protest. I'm fitting to go raid. Who the fuck could bring my child to a protest? Any of our kids to a protest. They see what's happening today. Bringing kids out there now. Purposely in schools. Washington State. Send this out. Washington State. Sending their kids to protest. I'll see you soon. Let me give you a little rundown on the way there. White Center, we call out here Rat City. If anybody from Washington State knows this Rat City is not an area you bring kids, let alone bring kids to a protest in this piece of shit city. If anybody knows White Center, you know Rat City is dangerous. Why are you bringing our kids into dangerous territory with fucking protesting going on? Anyway, I'll see you soon. See you in the next video. It looks like they made it all back to the school already before I could get here. Yeah, so they all just got back before I can get here. All the kids. Fucking furry teachers on their bikes. Is this really what's going on? This is craziness. This is craziness.
I don't know why there's a slowdown on
blue hairs, everything. Are you serious? Yellow hair? Oh my God, my kid is at a woke school. What is going on? This is Cascade Middle School, everybody. Cascade Middle School in Washington State. Did you consent to that?
I didn't want to.
You didn't want to do that?
No, after the cops came up, one of the guys was like the guy with the megaphone, like a kid, who's like, do not talk to the federal thingamabobs, whatever it is.
Just believe I will be at the next school board meeting. You'll see my next video when that happens. So my son just...
So the next video that he posted wasn't the school board meeting. I don't think anything like that has happened yet. But some people in his comments were saying they sent you an email. They sent you an email. They sent you an email. So he did show his emails. And I guess, granted, there could have been another email before that he's not showing or didn't get or whatever, but he did show his inbox and he showed the email and he read the email, and the email was talking about what happened. It was past tense that they took the kids to the protest. So even if he got an email, because I don't know, he said his son called him to inform him what was going on. Informing the parents what happened isn't the same as you asking for permission for them to do the thing. And his son said, I didn't want to do it. I don't know if that means he was pressured to do it and he just went along. Like, was he like, nah, I'm not moving? Or I imagine a lot of these kids, when they're like, oh, we're going to protest, or these kids protest or whatever, there might be kids who are into that kind of stuff. Politics and, so what people are saying on social media and be kind of plugged in, maybe not informed, but plugged in to this influencer said this person who I follow said this is what I believe about this thing. When I was in high school, there was definitely people with strong opinions, but people who weren't, who couldn't argue those strong opinions very well. But there were like a handful of kids who were pretty informed about particular issues. I was a pretty informed political kid, but most people, even if you deal with folks online who are like under the age of 25, most of my interactions with people online, I could tell if they're like, just usually under the age of 25 by how they're engaging in the conversation and I don't mean to be ageist, but I can just usually tell. I'm like, and sometimes I'll ask, like, how old are you? Or I go to their profile, I'm like, okay, they're 19. Okay, they're 17. Okay, they're 22. But few kids are like really informed about this stuff or kind of even care about this stuff that much. I imagine that most people, if they're like, hey, do you want to get out of school for a few hours? Or a little bit, like you don't have to do classwork right now. We're going to go like march around or something. Would you do that? A lot of folks will probably be like, okay, cool. That's fine. I would definitely be the type of kid who'd be like, nah, I'll just sit here. I'm not getting up. I'm not going anywhere. No, thank you. Like, aren't you supposed to be teaching us some things? Like, like where are you all going? I would be that sick in the mud child who would rain on everybody's parade about this. I'd be like, I'd be the one who would sneak out and call my dad. I would be the one to sneak out and call my dad. I was at a friend's birthday party one time, and I wasn't there for that long. And this was a good friend of mine. But I was hanging out with kids and stuff over their house, and we're enjoying each other's company. And she had like older relatives like that came over, and some of them started drinking, and we didn't do any of that growing up and stuff, and still don't drink or anything. And so I snuck away. And I made a phone call and I'm like, there's people drinking over here. Can you pick me up? And so my dad came to pick me. I think it was my sister came to pick me up. And then everybody was surprised, like, you have to leave already? I'm just like, and I wasn't ready to just kind of shut down the party and rebuke everybody or whatever. I don't know, for like having the alcohol or whatever, but I'm not saying, and they were of age people doing it. It just wasn't what I liked. So anyway, I would definitely be one of those kids who'd be like, nah, we're all going to sit here. As a matter of fact, I've had to tell off an entire class before. It's one of my favorites, I guess, high school stories. I probably won't have time to tell it today. I have told it before. If you're familiar with the journalist class story, but maybe I'll have time to tell it later. But I've definitely told it before. But yeah, I wouldn't move. I wouldn't move. But regardless, even if his son wanted to go, if you don't have permission from the parent, how dare you remove them from the school's premises? Parents should know where their children are when they go to school. They should know. They should be familiar with their schedule, and where their classes are to some regard. They should know where they are. And by the way, this isn't the only video that I have seen about schools taking kids to protest. Now, this is one I've seen where they took them off the school's property, and he's saying it's a dangerous neighborhood where you wouldn't want to just be taking kids to anyway. But I saw another video of a mom. I think they were just protesting outside at the school, and the mom came in the school and was like, "I'm pulling my child out of the school district." Like, go get my child right now. And then, they're just like, what? And they're like, I'm like, okay. And they're like, we got to find her. Like, go find my child. I'm pulling out of the school district right now. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Out here using these kids for political props or whatever, and maybe they want to do it. Maybe they want to do it. They're there to do school, to do the math, the science, the reading. That's what they're here for. And you know what? People do learn about government and all kinds of different issues. People do learn about current events and so on. But you cannot just be pushing stuff that that so many parents would not be cool with and expect there to be no repercussions. Now, this story with this father is far more alarming to me. Again, I already said the thing I hate so much, I don't even have kids, but the idea that someone would be pushing something like this, having the audacity to say, we're going to take your kid, we're not going to ask you for permission, we're going to tell you after the fact because we can. Basically, they're in our custody right now. We're going to do what we want with your kid. We're going to use them as our political pawns or whatever. And you can be told after the fact, as if he didn't matter, as if he's not the father. That is so insulting. It's so infuriating to me. I hate when people would do the sneaky stuff in school for the LGBT stuff. Like, okay, we're gonna use different pronouns. Your parent is gonna call you whatever at home, but we're gonna give you a different name at the school. Oh, overnight trips. When we go camping or whatever, you're a boy, but you say you're a girl. You want to stay in the girls' cabin. That kind of stuff is infuriating. And I'm not saying I would fight, because adults can't do that stuff. But if adults could do that stuff, I'm not saying I would, because the Holy Spirit would have to intervene, and I believe that it would. There's a song that's like, try Jesus, don't try me, because I throw hands. I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad. I'd have some intrusive thoughts, okay? but it is so remarkably inconsiderate of these parents' feelings and also the safety of the children. And I've said this many times, if something happens to these children, it's not the school who has to bury them. They may remember them a little bit, but it is a parent who will carry that grief with them until they die. It is a terrible feeling to know that your child has died before you. That's the worst thing for a parent to go through. And people have been overzealous, like Renee Good, like Alex Pretty, have gotten into situations where they shouldn't have been, ended up tussling with the police. I mean, with Border Patrol, ICE, and so on, and lost their lives. So they didn't inform him before. They informed him afterward. They didn't ask for permission. I look forward to seeing this man go to the school board meeting. I look forward to seeing if his lawsuit goes anywhere. He is like having a GoFundMe and stuff for like getting a lawyer and stuff like that. He's trying to find somebody who do pro bono. I'm sure there's like, I don't know, if we elevate the story some more, there might be some cases, some law firms or whatever. Maybe Alliance Defending Freedom, I think, is the firm that handles a lot of like civil liberty cases and stuff like that. Maybe they'd be willing to look at something like this, because well, I don't know what his in-game plan for his lawsuit will be. I guess I want to know more of his plan going forward, but I at least want to see that school board meeting for sure. So his handle is modern underscore Ragnar. And if you want to follow him, I will update the situation because I'll be looking at it because this stuff ticks me off. And again, this is not the only one that I have seen. This is not the only one that I've seen. I saw a clip of Scott from who's always on CNN going back and forth with Abby Phillips and other folks about with sellers. Let me play this clip for you guys. This has nothing to do with the school stuff, but this is just people inserting themselves within these protests and so on, and the attitude that these folks have.
Would you advise someone, even if they're very angry, even if they don't like the laws, to insert themselves into the middle of an active law enforcement situation?
If they see something wrong, absolutely.
You would advise a person or a client of yours to literally engage in the middle of an active law enforcement matter?
If they see something wrong, I would say yes. I would say definitely
That's a crime.
I would say put
Alex Reddy was filming with a phone.
You're advising people to commit crimes?
I'm advising
Do you
people,
consider filming with a phone?
Okay, yeah, just holding a camera does not absolve you of the law, and I'll go on and let the rest of this play out, but because these are like, hold up, I know how these things get clipped. Okay, well, I'm going to say my commentary first, okay? I'll let you finish, bruh. But Scott asking, would you advise your clients to get involved with law enforcement? He's like, if you see something, yeah. Not only is it not legal, as Scott was pointing out, but it's not safe. And this throws me for a loop. And I'm a broken record with this right now. But as you recall, in 2020, the narrative was that cops are hunting Black people. It is even dangerous to be around the police. It's a death sentence. If a white woman was talking to a Black person and was like, I'm going to call the police, which there was a viral moment of like I can't remember exactly what happened. I think it was something with a dog, but there was someone was in a park or forest or something like that. And there was a woman and there was a Black man. And so she was like, I'm going to call the police. And people were like, oh my gosh, she's trying to kill him. She's trying to get the police there so they can execute them. That was what was in people's minds. If you said call the police on a Black person, that you were trying to get them to be killed by a cop. That's how demented people's brains were with the BLM narrative and so on. So Scott asking Mr. Sellers here, would you advise a client, would you advise people to get in the middle of some kind of law enforcement situation? And he says yes. And this is a Black guy saying it, who's Black and on the left, or Democrat or whatever. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Because before, wouldn't it be like you asking this person to die? It's so funny though in general when they want to be mind your business, but no, you should. You can film stuff, but we know they're not just filming things; they are impeding ICE. They're blocking the roads. They're getting super close. Like, why were they even that close to the agents to be pushed down or pepper sprayed like that? I know pepper spray, that spreads in the areas, but they got him like right in his face. Like, why were they engaging like that? Why did they, and before the tape even started rolling from what we have seen, why were they even close enough that they had to be told repeatedly to back away from them?
Just to be extremely clear, because I know how these things get clipped and shipped around on Twitter. What I'm actually telling you, Scott, is if my client came to me and said, Bakari, I was outside and I saw something going down and I saw somebody being abused and I went and tried to put myself in between them, or I raised the camera, do not hit officers. Do not spit on officers. But yes, by all means, if you see something wrong, videotape it. I mean,
He didn't say don't resist them.
Can't sit here. My dad was a member of SNCC. Right? He was a professional disruptor.
Holding a camera is different than inserting yourself or inserting your vehicle into the middle
hold
of a lawn.
I mean, I think, but
was
Scott,
backwards.
what was Alex Preddy doing in the moment that he was assaulted?
What was Keith Porter doing?
Officers?
He was engaging
What was
with
he
law
doing?
enforcement
He was
officers.
looking
He was
backwards. He
within
was
inches
protecting
of
our
them.
No,
women.
he wasn't.
Yes,
Law
yes, he
enforcement.
was. There was
What
a
was he,
scrum.
hold on,
Abby.
what was he doing? What exactly was
He was
doing?
engaging in the middle
Do you
of a law
remember that he
enforcement
was
situation.
recording?
That doesn't
And
absolve
do you,
you
hold
of,
on,
that doesn't absolve you of anything. Holding a camera and a phone does
hold
not
on a
erase
second. I'm
federal
talking
laws.
frame by frame. He stepped to help the woman who was on the ground. He stood up. They pepper sprayed him. He put his hands up because he had just been pepper sprayed, and then they tackled him.
Can I ask a better
So what did
question?
he do?
No. Can I ask just one
How
question?
did he insert himself?
You asked a great question to me. Let me ask.
By going over there. What? Why was she over there? Why was she over there? It we know he has a pattern. Now they wouldn't maybe have known this at the time. The agents who were engaging with him, the border patrol. I assume they didn't know. We know more about him and his behavior and how this is a repeated pattern. Because we saw the video of him kicking out the taillight that wasn't AI. Spitting on the car, telling them like assault me. So this is someone who's looking for trouble, looking for some kind of interaction, or at least, has a lot of vibrato, where he's inciting violence to happen against him. Wow, that I suppose he believed he would get on camera or whatever. But some people are just are big trash talkers, and they don't expect stuff to happen. Or some people are angry abusers, and they because they are agents of the law. They know and expect these law enforcement officers to not engage too roughly with them. So they expect that they can push them to a far place, and they're not supposed to react. So they definitely try to abuse the situation. Why else would you be yelling, assault me? And that was the incident before he died. Now we don't know what all he might have been saying or doing before on the actual day that he was shot. And by the way, I'm not saying that they handled that in the right way or whatever. And it seems like the force that they ended up applying was not I'll say not necessary, but I don't know what was in their minds at the time when the shooting occurred. And when President Trump was asked, I think it was by NBC News, I think was the one who posted it. And Trump said he didn't like this situation with Alex Preddy. He didn't like this situation with Renee Good. But he does stand by law enforcement, stuff like that. And they're like, well, do you think that he deserved to what happened? And Trump's like, no, he didn't deserve. But people keep asking this question, in which they're going to get to this too. Did that deserve the death penalty? And that's the wrong question to ask. It's not the right question. It's not a fair question. Has nothing to do with anything that's going on. And we'll just let this play out so we can get to that particular part.
Skill question. All of those things that you said are a crime. Which one of those things that you enumerated is a death penalty crime punished by death?
Well,
that can require you to be gunned down in the street? Which one of those things?
Nothing requires you to be gunned down in the street, Bakari. My
That's what we're
only
talking about.
point is that you have ordinary people who are being trained or instructed to go into the middle of active law enforcement
That's not what
zones,
happened
and that
here.
is
Saying that
extremely
now, quit saying
unwise.
that with zero
extremely
evidence.
unwise.
You keep wanting to
It's
paint
not
them as trained agitators.
They really
without,
are. And I know you don't.
They are trained agitators. I don't know who all is participating in what training, but there is training. They have Zoom calls and images and like training and all kinds of different stuff for engaging with these folks. Miss Bad Bunny hoodie, which by the way, there's a funny video with Anna, saying that basically, why don't they don't need to do all the stuff that ICE is doing. They the local law enforcement can just hold people after they've committed some kind of crime and then be sent wherever. And they're like, that's what the detainers are. That's what they're trying to get the law enforcement to do that they're not doing. Like, so anyway, a lot of folks have opinions about this issue. They don't know much about it, but let me finish playing this out and then I'll respond to the death penalty thing.
I think there's plenty of people in this country who are willing to be outraged
But it
and
doesn't matter
protest
because
against Donald Trump.
if you insert
for
your
free.
body and yourself into the middle
Being
of
in
a
the
law
middle of the
enforcement
street,
situation,
filming
it's
abuse
dangerous.
is
You know what?
not
All
All right, we
inserting
really
yourself
have to.
Okay. If you were an observer, you could just be like, sitting there like Don Lemon and like, I'm just documenting. Do you know how many times people are out in public and something happens and you just might be like, my sister was watching My Hero Academia. I wanted to like film her reaction and I'm just quietly, she didn't even know I was recording her. Like, that's not what these people are doing. That's not what they're doing. That's not their intention, to just record them doing their job, just observing as if they don't have ulterior motives. This is so stupid. And he didn't just film stuff. He went up there, but he did get involved between their interaction. That ended up leading to that. While he was still armed and stuff. So anyway, he asked the question. Bakari Sellers asked the question. Okay, Scott, the stuff you said is illegal. What thing did he do that is, punishable, that you get the death penalty for? It is a stupid question to ask. Yeah, the answer is nothing. He didn't do anything that warranted the death penalty from those law enforcement officers. They are not the ones who decide that. People, when you commit some kind of crime, you get your due process. You get to be, they investigate the crime. Your jury of your peers will hear it out. You'll get your sentencing. You get appeals and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you get the death penalty, which is actually pretty. I had read a report some years ago about how expensive the process is, and so we don't even like really execute people very efficiently in this country. But you get all these processes that lead up to eventually you getting executed. It's not for the police to decide that, but that's not what's going on. You're acting like it's some kind of situation where it's just vigilante justice. Where it's like, oh, I want you to die. You did this thing, so I'm going to take you out. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that's not how things are obviously supposed to work. That's obviously not how things are supposed to work, regardless of whatever storyline that you watch on some cop show where you're like, get him, it's not, which I don't really watch a lot of cop shows. My mom sure did though, but there's still a lot of them on the DVR. My dad still watches them and stuff, but it's about self-defense. It's about self-defense. In that moment, is there an imminent threat to your life, your bodily harm, or the people around you. And if it's the case that someone had the gun went off, and they're thinking that Alex Pretty somehow still had his firearm, was trying to take out other ICE agents who's like, they're wrestling with or whatever at the time, and they took him out to prevent anyone else from being harmed, the fellow agents from being harmed. If that's in their mind, and considering the situation, they may rule that as justified. You may not like it. You may not agree with it, but it doesn't mean that they decided you deserve the death penalty and that's why I'm going to kill you. It's totally the wrong question to ask. You don't understand the fundamentals. Or maybe they probably do. They just don't care. It's rhetoric. It's not about what you deserve. And I do see some comments like, they got what they deserved. That's not why it happened. That's not why it happened. Renee Good, she deserved that. That's not why it happened. It's not about what she deserved or what you feel that she deserved. It's not about what you feel like Alex Pretty deserved because he kicked the taillight out like a couple days before. It's not about that. And you know what? Some of those agents, Border Patrol agents, might be found guilty. Some of them not. It depends on like who shot the gun. What did they know at the time? They might deem that someone's more culpable or whatever. When the Breonna Taylor thing happened, people were so mad. When I was looking at the facts of the case, I'm like, people are gonna be mad. These people aren't gonna be convicted of murder. And I think there was somebody who got more trouble than everybody else because he was just kind of firing all crazy and stuff. So they're going to look at it from the different perspective of each agent involved and make a determination. But it's not about what they deserve. It's a wrong question. What people keep saying it on CNN, people keep ask the president about it. It's not about what they deserve. When people ask you that question, it's not about what they deserve. It's about self-defense, and did they believe that there was a threat to their lives or serious bodily harm to themselves or the people around them. That's what it's about. And law enforcement, and that's the case that people are going to consider when you have a self-defense situation, when I have a self-defense situation. But people are going to have a lot of leeway when it comes to law enforcement agents who have a particularly dangerous job. So just keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. Another interesting thing that's going on in the news is that the Washington Post let go of a ton of people, over 300 people. And what's interesting is the reaction to it. I have a couple screenshots that I saved on my phone. I don't think I bookmarked them on X. But there's an attitude from people that Jeff Bezos, it doesn't matter how much money he was going to lose, like if he's going to lose like $1 million on the Washington Post, he should just eat that. He should just eat that money. If they can't turn it profitable, if people don't trust him, it's whatever. That he should just keep, dealing with it because he has millions of. He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire, and he can afford to just dump money into it and paying the salaries of all these people. And it's selfish of him to just not do that. And I think that's a really wild opinion. So there's someone who said, Jack Merkinson said, always bears repeating that this is not ultimately a financial decision. Jeff Bezos is worth $250 billion. He can afford to lose many millions and never even notice it. This is, at its core, a political and personal decision by Bezos to destroy the Post. If he wanted to just destroy the Post and fire everybody and say goodbye, we're just not doing this anymore. I'm just done. Whatever. he could do that if he wanted to. Elizabeth Warren said Jeff Bezos just fired hundreds of reporters at the Washington Post, including the Amazon reporter holding his own company accountable. Reminder, Jeff Bezos' net worth is nearly $250 billion. There's other people still writing about Amazon, so I don't think it was a personal thing, particularly about that, ma'am. They're making it about his wealth. And again, he should just kind of bite the bullet and just suck up the losses. Why would anyone run a company like that? Like, I know Elon Musk, he bought Twitter. He spent a lot of money on it, and Twitter wasn't really like profitable like that. And so he decided to start finding ways to make Twitter make money. I don't know if it ever turned a profit yet or whatever, but he started doing things like, if you want a badge on your page, you got to pay $8 a month. Now, I was paying it at first, and then like on my card or whatever, I had missed a payment. And so when I tried to like move it over to a different card or pay it, they took my $8, but they didn't give me my badge. And I couldn't contact somebody, and I'm like, well, I don't want you to just keep eating my $8 and not give me my badge. I don't know why I don't have a badge right now. So I've just still been without the badge because frankly, I wasn't seeing a lot of a ton of value in my reach, I guess, with the badge. I do miss being able to write in like an essay on a post, though, like the unlimited characters, basically. I don't know if it's unlimited, but it's a lot compared to what 300 characters or whatever it is. I don't like the shorter characters thing. And the edit button is cool, I guess. But I don't know whatever. I can't remember all the different features for the $8. But he started to find different ways. I'm sure the advanced Grok AI generated stuff is a feature where you have to pay more for it, and so on. So there's different tiers of X. I don't know if they've reached the revenue that they would like to reach. He obviously fired a lot of people coming into X because at the end of the day, you don't want to have to just keep losing a bunch of money. Not when you can spend it on other things like building rockets. and they can spend a lot of money on different stuff. Like Elon Musk, he started that PAC during 2024, and he was just giving out money. Like they had a survey that you could, not a survey, but some kind of maybe it was like a survey, I guess, but petition or whatever, just saying like, I like free speech. I like the Second Amendment or whatever, and you sign your name or whatever, and then you could they didn't pay you to fill out the form itself, but they paid you if you got other people to sign up. So I got some money from sending it to just family and be like, sign up for this. And you think you got like 40 did you get $47 per like $40, something like that per person who signed up? So Elon was pouring a lot of money, and for whatever particular reason for that, I don't know. Was that just like name capture or whatever, really expensive name capture? But I don't know what the end game for that in particular was, but hey, I got a little money during that time. He could spend his money how he would like to spend his money, but it is his money that he earned. It's not everyone else's. And if your company that you're a part of, the Washington Post, is losing money, why do you think that they get to keep just dumping the money into it, especially as the credibility of the paper has taken a nosedive? Now, what's really funny about this, if you recall, Jeff Bezos got a lot of flack from people in the Washington Post, and some people wanted to quit and so on. because he wanted the paper to not endorse Kamala Harris. The editorial people were all geared up to go ahead and do their endorsement of a presidential candidate. He's like, I don't want to do this. And he ended up writing a response for like why we're not doing this, basically because they need to see that we're covering the news, that we're not taking sides. We need to build up some kind of credibility, and we don't need people just thinking that we're biased and that people don't trust us and so on and so forth. And so many people on the left in the journalistic sphere were angry, and people were like, we're canceling our Washington Post subscription. We're canceling. And people were like retweeting folks saying that they're canceling the Washington Post and all proud of it. Now you're so proud of people canceling the Washington Post, and now you're mad because they're cutting back because they're not making money. You know that meme, or there's tons of memes, but there's one with a guy who has a gun, and there's like smoke coming out of the gun, and he's looking at the screen, and there's somebody who's dead on the couch, and he's like, how dare such and such do this? When it was obvious that he's a person who committed the crime. How can you celebrate people leaving the paper and then be angry that they're getting rid of people who work there? In the real world, if the company doesn't do well, the company goes down. People talk about Donald Trump for having like 6 failed companies or something like that when he had like 500 different subsidiaries. Like, oh, Trump Wine didn't do well. Okay, when the company doesn't do well, and all these companies have different, business IDs, like we have social security numbers, they have business like ID numbers and stuff like that. They go down. Oh, okay, that's bankrupt. It's done. Doesn't affect the rest of stuff. Oh, it's done. File bankruptcy, whatever. It's you got another business or whatever going on. And that's just how it works. Your company doesn't do well, layoffs happen. Like I know somebody who's in a company, they just had a bunch of layoffs. It happens. You're not extra special because you're a journalist. You still need ad revenue. You still need people to subscribe. When Daily Wire, when they first tried to pitch Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring to I can't remember the name of the company that they were with, but there was some company, and they were trying to explain like, hey, this will be a really good idea. We should utilize social media. We should dump a bunch of money into social media to try to get people to go to our website, and on our website we'll have a bunch of different ads, a bunch of different advertisements, and then the advertisement money will pay for the website. And then we'll keep taking that money, we'll keep pouring it into social media, and social media will keep pointing back to the website, and the website will keep pointing back to these ads. And it was a money-making machine. Like Ben Shapiro ended up getting frustrated and like just trying to actually draw a map of like the money-making machine, and they didn't get it. And I think they fired Ben, and then Jeremy left in solidarity or something like that, or vice versa, something like that. And they went and they started Daily Wire. And Daily Wire is a big success by basically just following that motto, because they knew that they would need ad revenue. And by the way, if you watch Daily Wire, they still do the ad revenue. You watch Ben Shapiro, he takes his time out to do his ad reads. All these folks do their ad reads. You go to their website, there's ads for their stuff. That's how businesses make it. And they also have subscription models. So if you have less people buying, less people subscribing, they lose money. And if less people are subscribing and reading the papers, they're not clicking on ads. It's just really that simple. But people are mocking this one girl, Akilah Johnson. She said, in 2021, I was hired by the Washington Post to cover health disparities and explore the way racism and social inequity, and inequality affects health. 4 months ago, I became the Generations reporter exploring how health is experienced by different people across the life. the life course. Today I was laid off. So people are mocking this, kind of like this is what you needed, a full-time job, particularly for this particular field that you're reporting in. And some people actually pointed out that some of her articles and stuff have been debunked and stuff too. So there's serious reporters who are like reporting on, again, warfare and things like that. But some of the reporting from the Washington Post, war for Gaza, Israel and stuff, were so irresponsible as well. There's one person I've even articles because they had so much misinformation in them, like really quick to basically report the story from the perspective of Hamas and things like that. So I'm not crying. It's sad when people lose their jobs, like, because it's just it's a feeling that's not great. You know, you think you're secure in one particular area, and then all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from underneath you. Not just the rug, maybe the whole ground, and you don't know what you're gonna do, and you have probably career, family, but bills. It's not a good feeling, and unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people, not just reporters. But the idea that I don't know, it's just evil that a billionaire won't just suck it up. You know, you're not entitled to his money. You have a job. You're hired to perform and do your job well, and the company has to figure out a way to exist and be profitable. Companies exist to be profitable. It's not a nonprofit. It's an organization that expects to make money, and it doesn't. It'd be nice if Jeff Bezos just decided to just keep dumping money into it and losing money. I don't know why you would do that for ungrateful employees who hate your guts. That's a better question. Why should he? Because he could keep dumping money, but why should he? You all eat the rich, folks. Like, why? Why shouldn't he just hire a bunch of capitalists? It doesn't make any sense to me. Not in the least bit. Not in the least bit. Anyway, someone asked, am I American? Yes, I am American. Someone from Bangladesh, apparently, by their profile. Yes, I am American. Last thing I want to mention today, before I let you guys go, I saw an interesting video last night. There on TikTok, there's an apologist account called Dinks the Puppet. And Dinks does really good Christian videos. He doesn't talk to you like it's not like a children's page or something like that, but it is a puppet who runs it. You know, the person who's doing it just probably wants some privacy or whatever. And so anyway, he replies to different videos. Most of them, well, they're all like religious. It's all religious content, but he'll do a lot of replies to like atheists, deconstructionists, and things like that. And so there's a video that I watched yesterday of a biomedical engineer. She's like, I'm a biomedical engineer, and this is why I don't, believe that there is a God. And that's why I'm an atheist. And so as she starts off with the video explaining what that she's a biomedical engineer or whatever, I'm thinking that the video is going to be about, I don't know, I guess creation and things like the Bible from a scientific perspective or whatever. Maybe she's going to say it's silly that a man could come back from the dead. I don't know. But I was expecting something along those lines. Now, she did eventually bring up creation and Genesis, which I don't think she made a great argument against it. But she starts off her video just trying to say is, hey, I have this opinion. It's not because of any sort of religious trauma or blah, 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 to just, I guess, things that are typical from a lot of different folks to try to get that kind of stuff out the way. But she starts talking about the problem of evil. And I just thought it was kind of funny. Because I'm expecting, I don't know, I just straight I'm a biomedical engineer here. This is why I'm an atheist. I would just expect it to be like purely a scientific argument and not leading off with a theological question that really puzzles me. Like I know a lot of people struggle with the problem of evil. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the problem of evil is like, well, there's bad things in the world. If God is good, basically, why does he let them happen? Like, why are there evil people who do evil things? Like why are there why are there natural disasters? Why do kids die from cancer? And or why I think she mentioned why are there school shootings? And so to me, they're really not good theological objections, because it's basically God is mean. I think God is mean, therefore I don't think God is real. And you not understanding God and not liking God is obviously not a good argument to why he doesn't exist. And you're an atheist, you're an agnostic, you also don't know him, you don't have a relationship with him, so you don't understand him, you don't like him, isn't compelling to people who have been in long-term relationships, I guess, with the Bible, with God, and have experienced so many not only wonderful things, but also suffered a lot of loss, but has had the peace that passeth all understanding. It was so hard, like losing my mom, and I don't have a good answer for you as to why she died when she did. I don't have a good answer. I don't know why God decided that was when he was going to take her. But I do know that going through that experience, being a saved individual, I'm like, man, how do people do this without the Holy Spirit? That's I'm like, how do you manage? Oh man, that must suck. That must really suck. Yeah, so there's a lot of questions that people might have that they may not be able to answer. There's good like counters or theological discussions about the question about the problem of evil or whatever, but I just think it's so not compelling as an objection to why God's not real. I think if people raise that objection, it's really a question of a heart issue, I guess. Frank Turek is a apologist, and so when he does Q&As with people, usually he'll ask an atheist at the end of it, if the Bible was true, would you become a Christian? And a lot of people I have seen say no. And if you knew that it was true and you just didn't want to become a Christian, which I know a lot of people who believe in God, they believe in the God of the Bible, they just don't want to live right. They, at the end of the day, they want to do what they want to do. So I just think it's a heart issue for a lot of folks as to why they can't sort of grasp Christianity, because they don't want to in some regard. They're not really seeking truth because they have this block on their heart and stuff. And that, I guess that's why it was so interesting to me why she started with the problem of evil. But I was reflecting on that last night after I watched the video and stuff, and I'm like, the problem with evil, quote unquote, is probably the audacity that people have thinking that they're good. Well, that's probably really the issue. Again, she did end up bringing Genesis and creation and how she didn't think things made sense, and Dinks was able to like push back against the stuff that she said. I didn't think her arguments were terribly that compelling, and it was stuff that Google could have probably addressed really quick. But there are Christians who have different perspectives on like young Earth, old Earth, that, and maybe she would find herself to agree more with inspiring philosophy than she would with Dinkstick Puppet. But there's different schools of thought about Genesis stuff. If you want to really argue about whether Christianity is true, you know, you could, was Jesus real? Of course he was by the available evidence and stuff. You know, did he die on the cross? Did he rise again? And there have been staunch atheists who have investigated those claims and have come out, you know, being like, oh my gosh, the gospel is true because the evidence is reliable. And, you know, if this man Jesus was God and actually rose from the dead and miracles actually did happen or do happen, a lot more possibilities begin to really open up. But she ended up saying at the end, like, I'm a good person, like you can have morality or whatever outside of, my morality comes outside of the Bible and other things like that, when the world that we live in is so influenced by Christianity. And the as Ben Shapiro told Bill Maher, like, we agree on most stuff because you were morally born on third base, not because, you know, you're just so kind of good at this. It's, you were born in a society where a lot of these things had these established beliefs on morality and so on. But this idea that God isn't real because of people suffer, you know, it's humans who will say something like, a woman should be allowed to have an abortion because, or we should just kind of stay out of it because, you know, it's hard having a baby in you for like 9 months and stuff. So because you don't believe that, and it could be described as a suffering to a lot of people. You think it's too mean to tell a woman that she can't kill her child because you think it's too mean that she should be naturally gestating her child, which is uncomfortable. It could rise beyond uncomfortable in some situations. It could be life threatening. Thank God that we have modern medicine where, you know, it's not as scary as it used to be. But people will say, like, they should be able to have an abortion, and they'll keep justifying it. Like, well, I think the woman is more important, you know, therefore you can kill them with the child. And even though you don't have to, she can kill the child so she doesn't have to suffer for X amount of time or suffer through the childbirth. And it's really okay to kill the child, especially if you do it early, because they'll have no conscious experience of the suffering when they're like mutilated and torn apart or sucked up through a tube, or if they're starved to death. So I just started thinking about all these ways in which human beings will convince themselves, because they hate suffering so much, that it's okay to do all these immoral things to get out of that. Like it's okay to say a business shouldn't be allowed to exist if they can't pay X amount of money, because their employee shouldn't have to suffer with 2 jobs. Like, those are moral claims that are really unfair to the business owner who maybe can't afford to pay his employees $20 an hour. But you got it in your mind that that it's not right that people should have to suffer with 2 jobs, you know? So I just think that I don't know, human beings have a lot of audacity. Again, there's lots of things we don't understand about why certain things happen in the world. I don't know why my mom died, not last September, but September before it. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. It was very sad for us, and it was very hard for my family. There's a woman in our church, Tish. I don't know why she died of cancer, and you know, her brother attends our church, and I've known her since I was a wee little girl, and that was very hard to deal with. And she left 2 little girls behind, 2 wonderful little girls. I don't have all the answers for why certain things happen. We could say we live in a fallen world, etc. I don't know how much comfort that actually brings people. you know? But as far as like a lot of people will bring up human nature, like why are there evil people in the world who exist who do evil things? Should humans just not exist? Should humans just not have free will? The free will that you're using to ask all these questions, would you rather that like not be a thing? But we'll have all these judgments about how God should act, what he should do, but on like a normal everyday scale, human beings will consciously decide to do evil things because in their mind it's righteous. And again, I just think the problem with evil is the audacity of human beings believing that they're actually good. My sister said the problem of evil is more like the problem with humanity. Yeah, I was going to call you about that last night, Tina, but I was like, oh, it's late. Let me just, I know she got to get up early. But, yeah, and she went on, she's like, I'm a good person. And it says who? According to who? And she's a biomedical engineer, you know, making stuff for like hospitals and things like that. And I'm like, thinking about the church and who really pushed for scientific discovery and medicine and hospitals and so much stuff in our world that people just want to toss aside because they have the benefit of just living in it in today's modern time and reaping the rewards. Again, morally just born on third base. Excuse me. So yeah, I have to flesh out my ideas. I was thinking about writing something about this particular subject because I just, you don't know God, you don't like God, therefore he can't be real is not a compelling argument to why God isn't real. And that's not the only thing she argued. She went to Genesis and stuff, but I just thought it was interesting that that's what she led with, and she went back to the moral stuff. And I'm like, I don't think like there's different explanations for Genesis and the different things that she mentioned that I think that she would could come to terms with. But the fact that she mentioned the moral, like the kind of moral stuff first, I think it's a heart issue. It has nothing to do with her biomedical engineering. That's why I just thought it was funny because she tried to kind of use this authoritative role, which I think she might actually be a student. But they use this role of authority to give themselves credit. And your argument should be enough of a flex that you don't have to, you know, say your job titles or your degrees. I know why people do it, but if your argument doesn't match your credentials, then you don't look very impressive at the end. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktunies.com to a different content website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site because it does cost a stream on my site. All that good stuff so you guys can support. I very much appreciate and appreciate you guys. And be safe out there. There's some by the way, there's crazy videos I was seeing in New York of like plowing the streets and just garbage stacked up everywhere. I have no idea if that's what it's usually like in New York, but I'm blown away by it because I just can't think of like anything like that. And I live in Michigan, which is a very snowy state. But our roads are bad. Like when it snows, you have people out there who are plowing streets and are salting them very quickly. And there are cities that do it better than the one I live in, but the New York stuff is just insane to me. So I need someone to update me on that. Is that how it always is, or is because some people are like, this is what communism gets you. I'm like, is this really how it always is in New York, or it's just bizarre to me as a Michigander? Anyway, God bless you guys.